With St. Patrick's Day right around the corner, I thought it would be fun to make a little leprechaun hat for cats today. The things you'll need to make this toy are some worsted weight yarn and whatever colors you like. If you want it to be traditional, kind of Kelly green, maybe gold for the buckle, black for the belt of the hat. But if you want it to be any other colors, it's totally okay. Or if you want it to be like a chloricon, like the little mischievous, more mischievous leprechauns, you can make it a red hat if you want. Totally up to you guys. Other things you'll need: a 4mm crochet hook, some yarn needles, some scissors, whatever kind of stuffing you like. Completely optional. You could put some catnip in there if you want to. If it's just for decoration, you can always leave that out, but if your cats do like catnip, feel free to put that in. All right, I think that is everything. Let's go ahead and get started. We're working from the top down, so this is the top of our hat. We're going to start with a magic circle, crossing that long end over the short end of our yarn, holding where they cross. We're going in with our hook. We're going to wrap that yarn, pull it up. We'll do that one more time through that little loop. There's our magic circle, and into the circle we're going to single crochet 6 times. So we are going through front to back, wrap, pull up, wrap, pull through the 2 on the hook. And we're going to keep doing that until we have 6 in that little circle. Once you have all 6, we're going to leave our hook in that last stitch just to keep it from getting pulled out. And then we take our tail, pull on it to bring the stitches together. We're going to slip stitch to join. So we're going into that very first single crochet stitch that we made. We're going to wrap the yarn, we're going to pull it through there, and then we're going to pull it through the stitch that we ended on. We'll chain 1, and now we've got an increase round. So each stitch is going to get 2 single crochets worked into it. So you're going in, and then you're going to go right back into that exact same spot. This is going to take us from 6 single crochets to 12. So again, we're just going in, wrap, pull up, wrap, pull through 2, and then going right back into that same spot. So keep going until you have all 12. We'll slip stitch to join again, we'll chain 1, and we'll get back together for round 3. Round 3 is another increase round. We're going to take a single crochet in that very first stitch, 1 all by itself, and then that next stitch gets the 2 single crochets. So this is where we're increasing. So we're continuing this same pattern all the way around. So we got 1 plain single crochet followed by 2 single crochets in the next stitch. This is going to take you from 12 to 18 stitches. We'll do the same thing at the end where we join the round, and then we're going to chain 1 to meet back up for round 4. Round 4 is our last increase round. We're going to have a plain single crochet in the first 2 stitches, and then we're going to single crochet 2 into the third. So again, it's just a repeating pattern. This is going to take us from 18 stitches to 24 at the end of the round. So we're going a plain, and then 2 and that third stitch. So keep going, and we will meet up for round 5. Things get a little different. So we've made it to the end of round 4. I'm going to go ahead and join that round. Before we move on to round 5, we are going to just take a moment to flip it to the wrong side. The tail that's on the inside, we're going to thread onto a yarn needle. Now if you're making this just for like a little display for the holiday, you absolutely don't have to do this part, but for a cat, I do like to make sure that that tail is extra secure. That way they can't kind of pull the thing apart and eat the stuffing inside. Okay, so now that your knot is done, it's just plain simple knot, just to keep it from coming undone there. We are going to be working the next round. So round 5 is going to be back loops only. It's just a plain single crochet round. So we're going into only the back loops. Now that first one's always a little trickier, but I'll show you here. You can see that little V shape. That's the top of our stitch. Normally we go through both. For the back loop only, we're just getting that back one. And we're going to do that all the way around. This is going to leave us again with 24 stitches at the end of the round. When you get to the end, we'll join the round. We'll chain 1, and then our round after this one is just plain single crochets. You're going to be working the regular way. So this one we're doing back loop only. Next one you'll grab both loops and just do another plain single crochet round, and then we'll meet back up for the round after that. So go ahead, finish this one, finish the next one, and we'll get back together. We're on to round 7. This one's going to be a decrease round. So our first 2 stitches will be plain single crochet stitches, and the next one we are going to work 2 stitches together. So we're going through the front loops only of the following 2 stitches. So just those front parts of those V's, we're going to wrap, pull through both of those, wrap, pull through the 2 on the hook. We're repeating this all the way around. This is going to take us from 24 stitches back down to our 18 stitches. When you get to the end, we'll slip stitch to join, just like we did before. And then we'll chain 1, and the next 2 rounds are going to be just plain single crochet rounds. So you'll have 2 rounds after this of just single crochets. That will be 18 stitches at the end of each round. You'll join, you'll chain 1 at the end of each, and then we will get back together for round 10. So keep going, finish this pattern, the next 2 just plain, and we'll get back together on that 10th round. We're ready for round 10 now. We are going to have a decrease round with a color change in the middle. For our first 4 stitches here, it's just plain single crochet, so we got 1 single crochet in each stitch for those first 4. And when we finish these, we've got a decrease coming up. The color change is going to happen partway through that decrease. So we're grabbing the front loops only of those next 2 stitches, wrap, pull through. And now before we finish that decrease stitch, we're going to tie on our gold color or yellow if you don't have a golden color yarn, or whatever color you want your hat's buckle to be. It doesn't have to be gold. But we are just tying that to the yarn we're working with. We're going to bring that knot as close to our hook as we can with the knots facing toward the inside. And I like to double knot it because cats are wily and they can undo things if you don't make them extra secure. Okay, so to finish that stitch that we almost finished, now we are going to wrap that golden yarn to pull through those last 2. So our next 4 stitches are going to be plain single crochets again, but this time we're working with the golden yarn. And then when we get to that 4th one, same thing as before, we're going to leave those 2 there and we're switching back to the green yarn. So we just want to make sure that we're not putting too much tension on there, but it's not loose either. So you're just kind of bringing it across the back and maybe holding it down with your finger just to make sure it's exactly where you want it. So we're finishing that one, and then we are going to decrease, and you got 1 more of those around. So you got 4 and then a decrease at the end. When we finish this round, we are going to be switching colors again. So this time, instead of the golden yarn, we're just switching to make a row of black. So we're going to go ahead and finish that stitch, but before we join, we're going to tie the black yarn on. Same thing, we're leaving that hook in there, and we want our knots to be on the inside of the toy, facing toward the inside, and we want to bring them as close to that stitch that we are leaving live on there. And once we've got that on, just kind of tuck in the end if you can, bringing that golden yarn out of your way. We're going to leave the green attached because we're going to switch back to the green in just a couple of rows, so might as well just leave it there. So now we will slip stitch and we'll chain 1, and now we're going to be doing just plain single crochets this round. There's no decreases, no increases. The only thing that will be a little bit different is when we get back around to where we started that buckle, we'll color change for the buckle. So right before we get to that gold stitch, we're gonna wrap, pull up those 2 for that last single crochet, but we're gonna finish it with the gold. So same thing we did with the green, we're just kind of pulling it across, and then we'll do that 1 stitch. So we pull up, we're switching back to the black. So before we finish, we're going back to the black yarn, and then 2 stitches here, same thing. Once you have those 2 pulled up, we're switching to the gold again to make the sides of our buckle. Going in, and then we'll switch to the black, and then we're finishing out this row with the black. And we've got 1 more round to go here before we start working on the brim. It'll be kind of the same idea, just plain single crochets each one, but this round we'll be finishing the bottom of the buckle. So we will go ahead and join. We'll chain 1, and we're going to single crochet our way over, and all that other yarn is like just still attached, so just keeping it out of your way, moving it along with you, and it'll be waiting for you when you get there. And we're color changing the same as before. Wrap, pull up, taking that gold yarn, bringing it forward, and we'll finish that stitch with the gold. Now we're going to do 4 across here, and that's the bottom of our buckle. And for the 4th one, we just leave those 2. We're going to switch back to the black. So now we're moving along with the black yarn, but before we get too far forward, we're just going to cut away the gold yarn. We don't need it anymore, so might as well not have it clogging up our way here. But we want to tie it again, just to the inside, knots facing toward the inside. Bring the knot as close to our hook as we can, and then we're just going to bring that and tuck it in. So we're finishing this row, this round, however you like to call it, with the black yarn. When we get to the end, we are going to be switching back to the green yarn. So we'll be cutting away the black yarn also soon. Now we got just a couple more here, and that's that whole belt done. So before we join the round, we're going to go ahead and cut away the black, and we're going to tie that to the green. So the green's just a couple rows up, so we want to make sure that we're not pulling too much on there, that it's not too much in the way of anything. So just bringing it over, we're going to tie it, knots toward the inside of the toy as always, and one more, just to double knot it, just to be safe. And then that black tail there can get tucked in. Let's see, making sure that I didn't pull it too tight. Got stuck on some things in there. All right, so now that we've got that done, we are going to join that round, and we're going to chain 1. So now to keep going, kind of looks like a Frankenstein head from this side. That would be fun, maybe at Halloween time. We are going to be doing an increase round, and our increase round is going to happen in the front loops only of our stitches. So before we got the back loops when we were changing directions, now we're going to get the front. A little bit harder to see with the black yarn, but you know where they are. And we are increasing in each stitch. This is going to take us from 15 stitches up to 30. So making sure that we're only working the front rows or front loops on our row. We're going all the way around, and once you get to the end, we'll slip stitch to join, and then we've got a plain round. So after this round, it's just 1 single crochet in each stitch working regular, and then we'll get back together for our last round. And we have one last round for our brim. This is the round that's going to give it a little bit of character. So for our first move here, we're going to single crochet 2 together. So we're decreasing, but because we're on an open part of the toy, we're going to go do our decrease a little different. So we're going through both loops. We're going to wrap, pull up, and we're going to go through the next one and do the same thing, wrap, pull up. So now we have 3 loops on our hook. We'll wrap, pull through all 3 of those, and then for our next 2 stitches we've got plain single crochets, so just working those regular. And then for the next 3 stitches we're going to increase, so we're going to do 2 in each stitch for the next 3. So we're going in, going back into that same spot, and we're going to do that twice more, another increase, 1 more time, and after that we are going to decrease. So we've got the single crochet 2 together. So the same way, we're going in, we wrap, pull up, we're going the next one, wrap, pull up, wrap, pull through 2. So that's 2 down. We've got 4 more to go here. So you should have a total of 6 decreases across the front. We're halfway, and a couple more. Next one's going to be our last one. And from here, we are going to increase again. So we've got 2 single crochets in the next. And again, we are increasing 2 single crochets in this one. We'll be repeating this 4 times. So we've got 2 more increase stitches to go. And 1 more time. And then those next 5 stitches are going to get worked plain, so just plain single crochets. Couple more. And then that last one is going to be a decrease. So those last 2 stitches get worked together. And we'll join that round. And then just checking in on it. It should have a nice little curve to the brim there. There we go. A leprechaun hat. So we are going to cut away this green yarn. We're going to tie it off and we're going to reattach our yarn to the bottom. But first, we'll wrap to pull through that last loop just to tie that off. And we are going to thread this onto a yarn needle, bring it through so we can tuck our tail into our toy. And this is where we're going to add our catnip and our stuffing. So go ahead and grab your yarn needle. So I've got that yarn needle on there. We're just going to weave through those last few rounds to bring us to the inside of the toy. And once you're there, we're just going to go ahead and plop that in there. So if you are adding catnip, I would do catnip first, then your stuffing. Once you're happy with how much stuffing you have in there, we'll get back together. And we're going to reattach our yarn to this right before we started the brim. When we had that front loop only, we're going to be grabbing the back loop of that round for our last little piece here. So go ahead, add your stuffing, and we'll be back together. Okay, last piece here. We've got our stuffing in there. We're going to grab that front loop or back loop from that little row before the brim. Taking our yarn, we're just going to attach it there. So we're going through there, and just like with everything else in these cat toys, I'm going to give it a little double knot. Keeping the knots toward the insides of the toy, and I like to keep my hook in there so that as I pull, I don't accidentally make that loop too tight or lose it altogether. So now that tail is just going to get wedged in there with the stuffing. So it'll just stay on the inside there. We don't have to worry about weaving it in or anything. And now we can work that last bit. Okay, we're going to chain 1 here. We're going into that exact same place where all that came from. We're going to wrap, pull up. We're going to go through the next one because we are decreasing. We're going to wrap, pull through up again. And then we are going through all the loops on the hook. So we're going in. We're going to wrap, pull up. We're going to go into the next one. We're going to wrap, pull up. And then we're going to wrap, pull through all 3 there. And we are repeating this until the very last stitch. We'll have a little solo guy all by himself back there. But for now, we're just continuing on all decreases until you get to the end. This is the only inside round we have to do. After this, it's just weave and closed. We are on the home stretch here. Being mindful to get as little stuffing as possible mixed in with our stitches. And we are on our last decrease. And then that last stitch just gets a single crochet. So we ended with a odd number there. Okay, so now we join the first stitch to that last stitch, and we're going to leave a medium-ish tail so that we can weave closed that last bit. And before we do that, we'll wrap that yarn over our hook and pull it through that last loop just to tie it off. And now we'll thread that tail onto our yarn needle. Okay, we're going to take that yarn needle, we're going into that first stitch and out the next one. And we're repeating that, just going in and out through this last line of stitches here, all the way to the beginning. Once we get to that last stitch, we can go ahead and go through. We're going to pull on that tail. That's going to make that little hole disappear. bringing it all together. I'll make that, pull on that until it's as snug as you can get it. And then we're gonna grab just somewhere close by, trying to get just one piece of the yarn to make a little knot. So we're just looping through there. And again, we'll tie that one off as tight as we can. And then whichever direction that last knot lays the flattest, we're gonna send that yarn needle through the toy, out wherever it comes out. We'll put a little bit of tension on that piece of yarn. So when we cut it off, it just kind of disappears back into the toy once you give it a little smoosh. And then there you have it. Our little leprechaun hat is all done. We're ready for our cat friends to play with. I hope you guys have a magical St. Patrick's Day. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Bye.